Let's talk to Jason Reed, political commentator. He's written a piece recently where he says that Priti Patel should be the new Prime Minister. Jason, good evening.
Good evening, James. Good evening, Ash.
Good evening.
Why?
I think she's a good candidate. I don't think anyone else among the serious contenders comes close. She hasn't dirtied her hands in the COVID restrictions debate like many of her colleagues. She doesn't have the lack of experience that Rishi Sunak has. She doesn't have the problem with being a Remainer that Liz Truss has. I think we need a principled leader, since Boris Johnson's principles went out the window so quickly. You know, he used to call himself libertarian. He used to talk about Britain as the land of liberty. When he was elected in 2019, he talked about the need to roll back the continuing creep of the nanny state. Whatever happened to that? So we need a true blue Conservative Prime Minister, and I think Priti Patel is a pretty solid choice with solid ministerial experience.
But I have to admit, I'm you know, I know Boris quite well. He's a nice sort of chap, but obviously he's not up to the job, has no discipline, needs to kick a few asses, needs to sack a few people. But, I mean, to be honest, Jason, Priti Patel keeps talking tough and does flip all.
Exactly.
Are you talking about the migrant crisis or anything else in particular?
Well,
everything.
That in particular.
Well, the migrant crisis is obviously what people bring up quite often to criticise Priti Patel. I think she's had a really unfair rap when it comes to that issue because it's all the fault of the French government. President Emmanuel Macron has an election coming up, and so he's resorted to the oldest trick in the book, which is picking on the British. Like when we had that ridiculous theatre where the entire French Navy was deployed to guard one British fishing boat that has strayed into French waters.
Well, why don't we go... Listen, I agree with you, OK? And I'm getting sick of it. I live in Kent, and I'm getting sick of these pillocks breaking into my country. Now, obviously, I feel very sorry for women and children, but they're very few. Most are men of a military age. They come here, they get looked after. I'm sick of it. I'm flipping sick of it.
I mean, whatever the French are doing, she's not been able to do anything about it. She should be able to do something about it.
No, but she could do. She's got no
She said she's going to do this, and they'll go to Rwanda, and they'll do this, and nothing's actually happened. In fact, 29 people drowned.
Well, it's very difficult to get another country to agree to process
Well, then stop saying you're doing it. That's the problem, Jason. She keeps saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
She wasn't saying they were going to have to process. She was saying when we get them, we'll take them and be processed in... Well, she did actually say Rwanda at one point.
I think Priti Patel has done anything that you could expect from a Home Secretary, and without the cooperation of the French, you're not going to achieve anything. She's proposed very sensible things like having joint British and French patrols along the coastline to stop the dangerous dinghies, those unsafe boats coming along. And it's got to the point of desperation where she's proposed even slightly more bonkers ideas, like having wave machines to try to send...
That's obviously never going to happen, so a silly thing to say, isn't it?
Well, she's got to think of something. And this is what
just say anything. That's like Boris Johnson, isn't it? I'll just say, you know, think of something.
No, hang on, both of you. She doesn't have to... She has to do something. Now, the French are not, because if we were in the French's position, we had all these people in our country we didn't want, we get them out as soon as we can. We have to show to people around the world that this is not... You're not going to be treated like a lord if you come here. In fact, the more people who are coming here, the worse the treatment of them is going to be, because we're running out of money. So they've got a bunch of them in Folkestone, is it, or Dover, in an ex-military camp, which they've already burnt down once. So I put armed guards on these places, and I put them in there. It's going to be like a prison. You come to this country illegally, that's where you're going to be. You don't have to worry about the French. We can deal with the French a little later, because a lot of the French people are pretty unimpressed with their politicians at the moment, because they should be keeping the people out of their country too. You know, the European dictatorship, as I like to call it, Jason, is a failed idea. Don't want any more of that bollocks, to be quite honest. I'm just getting sick of people not doing stuff. And it's easy to do. If you come to this country illegally, we're going to put you in prison.
Yeah, what has she done, Priti Patel?
Stick her on the Isle of Wight.
I mean, she got done for bullying, wasn't she, with the civil servant? Although that probably might...
Show you bullying,
that's a good positive. I think someone will see that as positive. They'll see her as being strong for that. They'll give it, you know. But what has she done that's so
positive? Is the way I talk to you.
Yeah, but not really. Doesn't have any effect, does it? Because you know,
no, I know, but
you're very small, you're a very little man. Yeah. But I mean, what would What's she done that's good, Priti Patel?
Well, the bullying claim is an interesting one because obviously Boris Johnson came down on her side, and a trade union took it to court, and the court sided with Priti Patel. She's been cleared from that. I think the details are still a little bit murky. But
that's good because I was on her side there actually. But what has she done actually good policy-wise? What has she actually done?
Well, could you just let... Sorry, Jason, about this.
Well,
he's very uncontrollable.
He stopped, didn't he?
No, he's very uncontrollable.
He stopped.
Can we go back to the... will you go and comb your hair or do your makeup or something? The problem is she could do things with people coming here. Why are they allowed into our country illegally? Why are they not put somewhere? And there are places we could put them and kept there until they've been processed. And then if they've been processed and they have no business being here, fly them back to where they originally came from. Why don't we do that?
This isn't about the migrants. This isn't about the people.
We don't know where they came from either. We don't know where they
except when they drown in the Channel, which is incredibly tragic. There's nobody who thinks that migrants crossing the Channel in dinghies is a good thing. There's no dinghy lobby that goes to or a people trafficking lobby that goes to the government and says these are the benefits of all this illegal immigration. The only reason it happens is because the people on the other side of the Channel let it happen. They let the people trafficking happen.
At the moment,
buy the dinghies.
we can't
they
stop
don't stop
that.
it.
Unless we invade France, we can't stop it. So back to my original question, which no bugger answers anyway. Why don't we set up detention centres and camps in this country where people are kept who come here? Why are we putting them in 4-star hotels? Why are we giving them mobile phones? Why are we feeding them the best food? Put them in a detention centre. If it's a family, then we'll look after them better, okay? But if they're young men of military age coming to this country for goodness only knows what reason, lock them up, and then we can sort it out later.
I don't think that's a very British attitude, I'm afraid, James. We don't...
Really? I would have thought it was exactly a British attitude.
Of course it isn't. We don't close
We're getting sick and tired of you woke wallies going on like you are, Jason, wanting to love everybody. I'm sure you probably sit down with Extinction Rebellion or insulate, whatever you insulate. But it's got to stop, mate. It has got to stop. We are not here to attract people to come to this country and give them a lovely hotel, look after them. And if you want to stop it, you are not going to get the French to stop it because they don't want these people either. You are going to have to do something that makes it look to the rest of the world that we are serious in the way the Australians have.
Well, on
You're
the
not
issue
a
of
pushover nation.
On the issue of insulate
Margaret
Britain
Thatcher would have done that.
Rebellion, I'm with you on that completely, but I don't think
Thatcher would have done it.
I don't think she would. That's not.
I can tell you she would.
Global Britain, post Brexit, we shouldn't be sending a signal that we're closing ourselves off to the rest of the world.
Margaret Thatcher, I can tell you, I knew Margaret Thatcher. She wouldn't have stood for this. She would have been firm against this. And we are a global nation. Of course we are, but we are not a place where people just come and freeload off us, which is what a lot of people are doing.
Priti Patel
it's not going to happen, Jason. Priti Patel is weak.
She's not weak. I don't know what more she could have done without.
She's
probably out of all the high-profile ones. She's probably actually, you're right. She's probably the leader out of those. Who would you say is after?
Let her show it.
Who would you say after her is the? I mean, Sajid Javid is.
Don't be ridiculous.
I mean, he's a bald man, and a bald man has never won against a man with hair. So there is that problem on the general election.
It's a very good point. Yes.
Really.
But who would you say
Who's
after Priti Patel?
Sexiest out of us three. That's what.
Yeah,
I'd
but
like
sexy doesn't make you prime minister. You've got to be.
Who is the most?
Who's the one after
with
Priti
heads
Patel?
Of hair? I mean, honestly, get yourself smart.
Who's your favourite? Your second favourite?
I don't think there's anyone else in the current cabinet who shows any promise at all. What about the opposition?
What about the opposition, Jason? Who would you like there?
The opposition are worse, I'm afraid. No, I'm not a Keir Starmer supporter. I'm a member of the Tory party. Ed Davey would be even worse than Keir Starmer, I think. Deary me. Does he stand for anything at all?
No.
I mean, David Davis, if he hadn't done what he did the other day, I would have thought would have made a good leader.
What did he do the other day?
Oh, just stood up and took the mick
He
out
quoted
of,
that thing, for God's sake, resign, that sort of
that was fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it made him...
I mean, he was right. Boris should resign.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, there isn't anybody apart from you want Priti Patel. I don't think Priti Patel is strong enough to be a leader. I don't think anybody is, to be quite honest. And I think at this time in the world, with the Russians knocking on the door, is a good time to start changing the leadership, because I don't think we should be able to change the leadership of any party without an election.
And he's got a good world profile around the world. He's quite respected.
Well, because of his calamitous time as Foreign Secretary. I don't think it did him any favours.
Well, now he's Prime Minister now. I mean, he's quite...
well, there's always going to be an issue, isn't there? There's always, at the moment, it's Ukraine and Russia. Before that would have been Afghanistan. Before that, COVID. There's always a reason not to make the change. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get rid of someone who's rubbish.
Well, but there's nobody to replace him with.
Exactly, you've got to have someone in.
For the reasons I told you, Priti Patel is not going to do it. No, she's not.
She is. She could do it. She could do a fantastic job, I think.
Is she popular amongst the Conservatives?
I think she'd be very popular on the Red Wall with her law and order rhetoric.
Have you got a picture of her on your wall?
I don't. No, I'm not one of those types.
Have you got a picture of her on your wall in the office? Are you running a little campaign? Are you running?
Are you a Thatcher fan, Jason? Does she remind you of Thatcher? Is that what you?
She has something Thatcherite about her. Yeah, she has a bit of sort of Thatcherite steel about her. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I
haven't seen that
actually,
yet.
isn't it? Iron. Yeah.
Because Margaret would not have said the things she said without giving some action, and she would not have allowed the ministers, which is what Boris has done, to kind of ride roughshod over everything. Boris has no leadership qualities, I would agree. But moving him at the moment is tantamount to just sort of taking the rudder off a ship while we're heading into a gale. I mean, Priti Patel, if she was to suddenly stand up to him and say, look, we need to do something about the migrant situation, because that's what the majority of people actually in this country look at her to do something about.
Well, Boris has been telling her to do that. That's the thing.
Well, she's failing.
But tackling the migrant crisis doesn't mean standing up and doing a big public, narcissistic ego show. It means working away hard behind the scenes, trying to work with the French to get it done.
Forget the French. They're not going to agree. When we've just given them 9 licenses to fish in waters, what we should have done is pointed our gunboats at the fishermen and said, off, or there's going to be trouble. That we are a proud nation. We got out of the European dictatorship just in time, like I think the French would like to, if they could. But we need to have somebody tough like Margaret.
They're guzzling on our fish and taking the mick out of us at the same time.
Yeah. So who would you rather have, James? If you agree that Boris is rubbish and doesn't have the toughness and the leadership, is there anyone?
I don't think you... Well, no. To be quite honest with you...
That's why Boris needs to stay at the moment, because there is
nobody on the front bench. I want to have an election campaign and look at the people from, from not from the back benches. I think we've got a real wad of wallies at the moment in the back bench of the Conservative Party. The Lib Dems, well, they're a spent force. And by the way, let's get rid of the Scottish nationalists. I mean, they are an embarrassment, really, to democracy, aren't they? They are just a total embarrassment. You only have to look at their leader.
What about Tom Tugendhat? Tom Tugendhat?
Well, yeah, I think he'd be good. I really think Tom Tugendhat, who lives down the road here from me, and who's been in the armed forces, served in Afghanistan, and actually has made some really passionate speeches. I actually think he would make a good leader.
He's not got quite the experience as Priti, but...
Well, he's got the experience of being a commander in the armed forces.
Well, yeah. And he was chairman of the Select Committee on Foreign Affairs, so he knows about the foreign affairs.
He still is, yeah.
He still is.
Yeah, there you go. Perhaps he could be foreign secretary.
He's on the way.
Get some ministerial experience on the way to the top,
But unfortunately, he's criticised Boris, so while Boris is in charge, he won't be getting anywhere.
Another reason to get rid of Boris, then.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't get rid of him, Jason, until we've picked somebody that's going to do it.
Throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
No, it's the opposite. You've got to get rid of him in order to see who can succeed him.
You see, there is so much...
Fail to prepare and prepare to fail, Jason.
Yeah.
I think we are prepared. Priti's ready to step up.
We're in a situation where we need to do something about the cost of living. The power companies need to have a windfall tax. I sound a bit socialist there, but they need to. They're making frigging money, hand over fist, and we're expected to pay double the charges. Well, I ain't doing it. Let's just all stop.
Well, you've got your log burner.
I've got my log burner. What about my hot tub, for goodness sake? How are people like me, on old age pensions supposed to perform? Yeah, for goodness sake. Jason's laughing at an old person who's worried about the future, Ash.
I'm laughing at your
Very
hot
nice.
tub, James. It's hilarious.
Well, I've got it for medical reasons, you know.
Yeah, man.
So anyway, and, you know, I don't have holidays in Spain every year. I prefer to have my hot tub. It's cheaper. Yeah. So why don't we get onto that? We've got to find a leader. I mean,
Yeah, we're looking for a leader.
you know,
Exactly.
Chris
We need
Barry we
someone
had
who's
on
gonna-
before make a good one.
We need someone who's going to tackle
the.
the issues, not someone who's going to too busy thinking about where the next cheese and wine party is coming from or how he's going to deal with the ongoing police investigation. He's got to go before we can tackle real issues like that.
Well, I think those are all a complete waste of time and a red herring. And honestly,
The best leaders do
when I-
have, you know, issues normally. It's just the way it is.
the opposition. We've got a weak government because we've got an even weaker opposition. I think that's. What's on your mug, by the way?
It's Polici's. It's a Greasy Spoon Cafe in East London. Very nice.
Yeah, Polici.
Highly
Where do you live?
recommended.
East
Where do you
London.
live?
I live in South London,
Whereabouts?
Southwark.
Oh, nice.
Down
yeah.
here, you could have
Oh,
popped
something,
in. You
yeah.
could have come and had
Yeah,
a cup of
it's
tea.
just round the corner from. Yeah.
Could have done. I'll
Yeah.
join you next time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, is that a nice little? It's a Hayley. I'm chatting to our guest, Hayley. Never mind. Let's break. Honestly, what do producers get the wrong idea, Ash, about their place in the food chain? Yeah, is it a nice little cafe or?
It's very nice. Yeah, they was. They've kept the decor the same for 100 years.
I
It's
like
really,
that.
really
Oh,
nice.
I like
I think
those
I know
sort of
it. I think I've seen that. I've seen it's quite a
very
famous.
famous.
The
It
famous
is, yeah.
one. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's Soho that we go to, Ash. You know, quite often.
Who?
Well, where I sat you down in the gutter last time we went there.
Which one? Which gutter?
Well, exactly my point. Exactly my point.
So where do you politically commentate? Have you got a YouTube channel or are you gonna?
No, I haven't got a YouTube channel. I write articles for newspapers and various other people, and I appear on shows like this.
Do you know, I think I'm going to do something in my column on next Monday about the next leader of the Conservative Party.
Who are we
I don't
gonna
know who it's
propose?
going to be, though.
Who do you think?
Ooh, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I want somebody out of left field. Who?
Well, Tom Tugendhat is pretty left field,
Well, yeah, I might
He's a
do
good
that.
choice.
Might give Tom a, yeah.
and he's our mate, so we might.
There's
Yeah.
another one I think would be perhaps a good leader.
Who?
Sajid Javid. Don't be
Javid.
ridiculous.
Well, I don't know. He's quite good. I think he's quite good.
He's just done a U-turn on what if everybody in the NHS should be
flexible.
vaccinated.
He's flexible,
You
mate.
can't do U-turns like that and expect to have any kind of respect. No.
No.
Why didn't we clone Margaret Thatcher? That would have been what
We've
we
got
should have
Carol.
cloned
We've got
another
Carol
Margaret
Thatcher. Got Carol and Mark.
Why don't we call Carol? We used to hang out with Carol a lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
Probably before Jason was born.
Probably.
We could get Meryl Streep to do it. She could dress up as
Good
Margaret
idea.
Thatcher.
Let's get Meryl Streep.
Well, we could do that. Good Maggie Thatcher, couldn't we? Anyway, there isn't anybody that just jumps into my mind on the front bench. You like Priti Patel. Okay, we'll agree to differ on that. Is there a second choice, Jason, if she so refused to?
I think Tom Tugendhat is a pretty good second choice. I'm sure there's some talent lurking deep on the
No, we don't.
backbenches somewhere.
Rees-Mogg.
but-
We've forgotten about Jacob Rees-Mogg in the whole thing. What about?
Jacob Rees-Mogg's anchored himself to the Boris ship, hasn't he? He's going to go down with Boris eventually.
And to be fair, Jacob doesn't really click with the ordinary people, does he?
No.
He's nice as father of the house. Is he still father of the house? Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
No, that's
Leader of the
that's
house.
the oldest person.
Leader
father,
of the house.
isn't it?
That's right, leader. Yeah. No, I think no, he couldn't do it. I'm just trying to think of anybody else. No.
Leader of the House is a good role for him, isn't it? He can do those
Yeah,
speeches about the history and the procedure and everything, but he's not a leader.
Yeah. No. What about can we make somebody from the House of Lords?
Like the old
Prime
days.
Minister.
That's what we did in the old days. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
You know, what about
Lord Sugar. Yes, Lord Sugar.
Oh dear.
Well, what
no.
about
You're
my
fired.
friend? What about my friend Dominic Addington?
Lord Addington. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
not
good.
familiar with Lord Addington. Is he a good bloke?
Well,
Is he
check
leader?
Dominic out. He's youngish lad. He's hereditary lord with no money, which is always quite funny. And he is quite sensible. He's got a few good ideas.
Nice man.
So he might. He
big
was a
man.
bit of a liberal, but you know.
Big rugby player type. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he a Lib,
looks
he's a
like
Lib
a
Dem?
rugby
Yeah, he was the
player.
head of the Lib Dems in the House of Lords, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he's young, and that's
Interesting.
always a good start, isn't it?
Didn't take
Yeah,
you for a
anybody
Lib Dem,
else is-
James.
Yeah, anybody else has... Well, no, please, I don't want anybody holding that against me. Anybody has any ideas, give me a call. Surely there must be somebody elected that could be the leader. And maybe when Boris comes back now from the Ukraine, maybe he's going to be waving that bit of paper saying there will be no war.
Peace in our time.
Peace in our time. Yeah. They've got to stop worrying about these ridiculous green problems. You know, none of us want an electric car, Jason.
Carry, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Put
maybe
insulate Britain in prison and forget that they exist. Move on to.
Well, that's what I want to do. What about vetting the Prime Minister's wife or husband in the future?
Well, he married her after he became Prime Minister, didn't he? So that wouldn't solve the problem.
They
anyway.
lived in sin, actually. It's the first Prime Minister to...
there you go.
To live
Oh,
in
you
sin
old-fashioned
in 10
thing,
Downing Street.
living in sin.
Well,
Just because you look like a rabbi doesn't actually mean you have to behave like one, does it?
Carrie Antoinette, that's what they call her. Let them eat cake. Let them eat Colin the Caterpillar cake.
Dear, oh dear. Okay, Jason, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. If you get any more ideas, Jason, could you just let us know as quickly as possible?
I will do.
Because I'm beginning to think that a benevolent dictatorship with me and Ash at the head may be the way to go.
Yeah, we never had any.
I can see that. Yeah, daily broadcast to the nation at 10 p.m.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, with a Union Jack flags behind. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that's the way to go. You should have had a flag behind you.
Yeah, we
there.
could do that.
Just
here,
point, yeah. Jason, thank you very much indeed, my friend. We must take a break.